guys. Welcome. This is Off the Cuff. This is a time where we ask questions of distinguished guests, and they have no idea what's coming. In fact, if you send in a question, we could possibly ask your question to one of our three panelists, and they'll answer it in a very spiritual and godly way with perfect wisdom every single time. The fun part is they really don't know what's coming. Sometimes we don't either. And you can, in fact, text in a question right now, and if it's a great question, we will ask that question live here on Off the Cuff. Let me introduce who we're talking to today. Right now we have Alan and Joy Clayton. They're the senior pastors, or senior pastor and his wife, my mom and dad. They've been married 38 years.
You're 39.
39. I'm 30. I'm 37. And and they're joining us. We also have Philip and Ellen Moore. He's the executive pastor. She is the children's pastor. And they have been married
almost 32.
32 years. Almost 32 years. And then we have Derek and Gia, and they've been married how long?
Almost 25.
Almost 25.
Almost 25. And Derek, you are the pastor of our art groups and art care ministries, and Gia, you work there as well. You guys had great panels, really enjoyed hearing your sessions.
40s, 50s, and 60s. Yeah.
40s, 50s, and 60s. We want to go there. Okay. I wasn't going to say anything.
You said how old you were.
I didn't say So
Courtney already set us up real well.
Yeah, I think combined we have 95 years of marriage experience.
Okay.
Because I'm not included in that number. It's 11, but we'll just, who cares? No, I'm not answering any questions.
Yeah.
All right, folks, you sent in over 700 questions, a lot of questions.
Wow.
And we're going to get to every single one of them. So just hold on tight. Go pop some extra popcorn because we are in for a ride. I hope you guys are too. Actually not. Okay, first question. This is going to go to Mom and Dad.
Okay.
Padre and Madre, as I like to refer to them. How do you keep meaningful conversation after many, many married years together? How do you keep meaningful conversation after many, many years together?
Meaningful.
Actually, it's easier after being married longer.
Yeah.
For one, y'all are gone, and so
So there's no interruption.
and so we've got time to talk without being interrupted. I think as we've grown together and because we have common loves and common purposes, that our conversations are meaningful.
Yeah.
And so we love the Lord. We love pastoring this church. We've got you guys and then we have grandkids. And so if you enjoy one another, your conversations are going to be meaningful.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's good.
So all you're going to say is yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I agree. Actually, it's been easier to go at heart and things like that. We share a lot of the scriptures and even just different things.
Yeah, when you're not attacking one another, it's easier to have meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do think, too, though, don't you think you have to be intentional about having some of those? Sometimes you can
Not with
just
joy.
kind of. We find we can kind of just get busy with life and just kind of going through the motions
Right.
and talking about, the schedules for the day or
I see, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have to sometimes just be intentional to take time to have some meaningful conversation.
Very true. And I think we do ours at certain times.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
I'll come home a lot of times in the evening. I don't want to have a meaningful conversation. I just like some quiet and just let me kind of unwind. And so we find that we're both early morning people. And so we'll get up early in the morning, and that's a lot of times that's devotional time. That's where our best conversations take place.
I think for us, with kids still being at home, we're intentional, and we let the kids know that, hey, this is mommy and daddy time, and we make that sacred. And sometimes, they may not understand, but we guard that because we understand that we really need that as a couple.
And the more you do it, your kids learn to respect it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. As having young kids, that's a big one. Putting them to bed early so that they're not up till we're up. And that's helped us have meaningful conversations.
How long have you been married?
11 years.
Be quiet.
I would
Just ask the
say
question.
something that sometimes I have to. I know Ellen wants to go there and have a conversation, and maybe I'm not feeling it,
Yeah.
but I know it's important to her,
Yeah.
and so I will choose to enter in and go there in those conversations instead of just making it all about me. Like, hey, I know this is important to her. She wants to talk about hard issues or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and I'll go there even though I don't necessarily
Want to.
want to.
So
That's-
so that's what I'm going to say. Philip does it, Alan. It's time for you to like listen.
You know
to
what?
me.
We've already determined that comparisons are killers. Right.
Yeah, those are marriage killers.
Yeah,
right?
those are marriage killers.
That's a great lead into my next question. How do you address tough subjects? And this is to you to answer first, Philip. How do you address tough subjects with your spouse when you know they won't be receptive? We had quite a few questions coming right around that world.
It's a good
That's
question.
a good one.
It's a good question.
I would say, easy answer is very, very carefully. You have to choose the right time. I think as we were saying earlier, you have to make sure your heart and your motivation is right. If my motivation is to prove her wrong and to be right and to feel like it's about me being right as opposed to getting to the truth of the issue, that's going to show up. It's going to make things very messy. It's going to make things very confrontational on a level that isn't very healthy. But if she understands that I'm going for truth and I'm speaking it in love and I'm doing it from the right heart, she's going to be more receptive to that. You have to really phrase it very carefully. You can't go in and attacking and making accusations and, like we're saying, you always do this and you never do this.
Right.
Those statements are never true. There's nevers and always don't work.
Absolutes.
So I think you have to just be very careful and do it with the right heart. But you need to be willing to go there.
Yeah.
We've had a statement and we've used it around the staff is the last 10%.
Yeah.
It's very easy on a topic to go 50% there.
Right.
Or 75% there, or 90% there, but when you go that last 10%, you're putting it on the line, and you're saying, here it all is. But I think there's far too many people that don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the questions we had too along those lines, throwing back to you, was sometimes we have people who are saying, hey, I try to have these conversations. My spouse always blows up or always gets angry no matter what I try to do. What would be a way that you would handle that conflict in a sense?
Take that.
Yeah.
I think one thing that has helped us, because I lots of times want to go there, and he may not, or I'll go there, but it'll be in the wrong way, and then he'll shut down, or so one thing that we've done is we've asked each other, how could I have done that better? If I had brought this up, in what way would it have been easier for you? Or would it have come across kinder? Or what did I do? How could I have communicated that better? And just ask each other. And when Philip has asked me that, it really makes me stop and think, and it's like, oh, well, if my heart's wrong, then it doesn't matter how great you did it. It wouldn't have made a difference. I still would have blown up because I'm just thinking about myself. But when you're willing to listen to the question, answer it honestly, and think about that and give them a response, then you act on it and do it the way they need it to be done the next time.
Instead of them saying, well, they always respond this way, it flips the script and it says, hey, I must be doing something that's triggering this. And so maybe I need to approach it in a different way where they can hear it, where they'll receive it, and where they'll be open to it. And it's like, instead of they're the problem, maybe I'm the problem. If they're always blowing up, then maybe I'm always asking it the wrong way.
But asking them to say,
Yeah.
well, how would it
Yeah.
work?
Hey, I triggered
It's
something in you.
good.
It sounds like I ticked you off there. I didn't handle that right. How could I have done that differently?
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Like, I know whenever we have conflicts like that, the first thing I always do is I always pray. because I know, like, I got my sharp tongue, and I know what I want to say. But I always ask the Lord to kind of guide my words and to prepare his heart. And so whenever those conversations come, he's ready to hear it. And I have confidence that the Lord is going to help me say the right things. And it kind of always diffuses the situation a little bit. I'm not saying it always goes 100%, but the topic is broached. We're discussing it, and I know that it's not going to be as bad as it could have been had I not prayed first. So prayer, bring God into the situation first.
I think it's important to remember that you're on the same team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes the person who's on the receiving end, they get hurt and they feel like they're in it by themselves, and then the person who's trying to make the point, you know, they're coming at it with the emotion and they're not considering the other person. You always got to remember that you're on the same team.
Yeah.
And that if your wife wins, then as a husband you win as well. If they lose, you lose too. So you want to approach it in a respectful way.
Good.
I got a question.
Good answer.
How do you, and this is to you, Derek and Gia, how do you have more patience with a spouse? Someone's asking, how do I have more patience with my spouse? What does that look like?
Patience, huh? You know, I think, you know, for me, type A personality, you know, and I'm
not.
married to someone who, you know, loves details and loves the, you know, we've had situations where I'm in the middle of the ball game and she wants to have an intimate conversation. You know,
Fourth quarter.
yeah. All in the air. You know? But I think for me, it's understanding that, you know what, my spouse is more valuable than anything else. And if she's valuable, then I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show that value. And if you know, in that moment, that she wants to talk about something that's very important, that there's something that really needs to be discussed or addressed, then I've got to show her, you know, by giving her time that.
And he can press pause. Come on. Well, the other thing is, I think we read a scripture also that says you have to make allowances for each other, you know. So I know how he is. He knows how I am. And I've learned, though, I'm not going to ask him a deep question in the middle of the fourth quarter. I care enough now. I notice. I'm like, okay, this is obviously not a good time.
This is on tape.
So I've learned, you know, I try to take him into consideration first before I do that. So you know. If you think of the other person first, I think it diffuses a lot of the drama.
And I think what's helped us, Matt, is, you know, we went into this thinking, you know, Derek was like, okay, Gia has to meet my needs. Gia was thinking Derek has to meet my needs. And then along the way, it shifted, and we realized that both of us need to be givers. We need to be students of one another, understand, you know,
What
one
makes
another.
the other person tick?
And when we got to that point, it made things a lot easier. You know, I realized that, you know what, I can take a deep breath and I can listen to all the details. Or I can, you know, whenever she wants to go there and I don't want to, I can take that step, and it you know, it helps her.
That's good. Okay, Mom and Dad, this is directed to you. I don't know if I always want to answer this, but how can you fall in love with your spouse again? Like, have you had a moment where you felt like we're not in love anymore? How have you gotten back to that?
Did you? I think you had more of that than.
Yeah, I did. But I think, wow, I really believe, like what we talked about, that you can create a spark again. And I think that it's not all the typical romantic stuff for us. And I love what all this discussion was for us. What even caused me to love you so much more was how honest you were with me. How truthful you were with me, even when it really hurt. Nobody else would tell me some things. They were secret things in my life, and in a very loving way, you're like, Joy, honestly, you have to face this. And, you know, I really felt very close, very warm to you because you were forgiving, you were merciful, you saw me in a different way than anybody else would, and you cared enough to tell me, to talk to me. I think all of those provide an emotional warmth.
But I think what the mistake sometimes people make is they keep looking for that romantic love, like when they first met.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're not looking for that anymore. Our relationship is a lot deeper now than when we first met.
Yeah.
And so instead of falling in love again, I think it's deepening of the love that already exists.
Yes.
And then encouraging,
Yeah.
and so as we mature together, we were not friends when we started this relationship. We're much more friends now.
Yeah.
And so we just affirm the thing. So I think sometimes people are looking to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
This moment where they look and go, "Oh my gosh, I love
Yeah,
you,"
yeah.
and I didn't realize I love you. I don't know that happens except on Hallmark. And they're getting a little sketched, with
Yeah.
themselves and stuff.
And Instagram. I mean, because if
Yeah.
you ever look at Instagram, it's always like the highs and lows of every relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I don't look for that falling in love again. I look for deepening the love that already exists.
Yes.
And walking out of that.
With an honesty and a truth to it.
Yeah.
But
You're not
that's a
thinking-
trust. That's a
it-
trust thing.
Yes.
See, I think the more you trust, there's more love there.
Yeah.
The more you know
Yeah.
that they're going to do you good, there's more love there.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy for me to say that I love Joy much more now than I did when we first met.
Yeah.
And so the infatuation stage
Yes.
is over, and the depth of love stage is what counts.
Absolutely.
Philip and I'm going to throw this question to you guys. How can one gain trust back if it was lost?
They don't know. Their life has been. They don't know that.
It can be quickly lost, and it takes a long time to regain it.
That is so true.
And I think you have to, whoever was the one who betrayed the trust has to own that, and they have to admit, hey, they're falling on the grace and mercy of the other person. And they have to then, they have to earn it.
Yeah.
They have to earn it back.
Yeah, very
it's over time,
Yeah.
with actions displayed, with words, with the opposite of whatever created the distrust. They have to sow the seeds back to reap the new harvest.
John the Baptist said, "Bring forth fruits that basically signified that you've repented." So you can say, "I'm sorry."
Right.
I need to see something.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness is given. I can give forgiveness.
Yeah.
Trust is earned.
Yeah.
There are people, and I think people have a hard time with that. There are people I have forgiven. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. Forgiven them.
Yes.
Forgiven them. But trust is an earned thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that's come up a lot question-wise was trust that's been broken in relationships. When do I forgive somebody? When do I trust them? When do I bring it back? What's your, and I think you guys hit along on that. It's like, it's a process over time.
You trust them again when they've earned it back.
Yeah.
You can forgive them
there's no
automatically.
other way.
You forgive. Actually, forgiving them is the best thing to do for you.
Yes.
To get that out of your heart and you forgive them.
Yeah.
Trust is, now that takes some time.
And then I would say, if you see the other party making the effort, it does you no good to bring up that betrayal.
Oh, that's good.
And again,
That's real good. Don't
Watch
keep,
your words.
don't keep
That's not-
taking that wound off and rip it.
That's
Never
not
ended
forgiveness, is it?
Right.
So if you have someone,
That's good.
if they're bringing it back
all
up,
the
then
scab.
obviously you haven't forgiven.
But along that same line, you can sit there and say, I see you trying. I appreciate your trying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
appreciate the
acknowledge
attempts that you're
Yes.
making.
Yeah.
I see that in you.
Yes.
So, hey,
Yeah.
we're getting there,
Yeah.
and we're making steps in the right direction and applauding that as well.
Yes.
But also, though, if you the one that broke the trust, to realize you do have to earn it, and it's going to
Yes.
take time. You can't just say, "I'm sorry," so
Get over it.
move over.
can't
Yeah.
say that.
I said I'm sorry.
Hello. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's going to take them some time, so you need to give them some time and keep sowing those seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I love what someone said that I just always stayed with me. They said that her husband always said, "I'm sorry I hurt you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I hurt you," because when someone breaks a trust, that person's heart is broken, and they have to heal and to acknowledge and go, "I'm sorry I hurt you," brings healing. It's like putting Neosporin on a wound, and you're being sensitive to them. And that marriage is restored. And I think that's a good way to patiently work through gaining that.
We're going to go talk kids and family. Derek, I'm going to throw this one on you. How involved should in-laws be in a couple's life?
Go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, goodness.
I'll let you start.
How involved should in-laws be? I think, you have to remember that, you know, when you come together as man and wife, that's your family unit there. That's where your focus needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got to protect that.
Yes.
You know, and
Sometimes from in-laws.
from in-laws.
Yes.
And so, you know, you as a husband, you know, you as a wife, you know, you guys need to be on the same page. You have to have the same, be in agreement
the
about
same
everything.
mind,
And,
yeah.
and the in-laws really should have no input unless the two of you are reaching out together saying, you know,
What do you think?
what do you
Liz?
think? You know, can
Wow.
you give us some advice? You know, we always have talked about, you know, confidence is here. We don't share, I don't share my concerns or my issues with my parents, and she doesn't
Right.
go and share her issues and concerns
Smart.
with her parents.
That's good.
We keep it here.
Yeah.
And we're in agreement whenever we go beyond that.
That's
That,
good.
that could be an entire topic.
Yeah.
That could be, or a sermon series.
Because it can go both ways. Sometimes you have spouses that are more attached almost to their immediate, their old families.
Yeah.
And then you have old families that don't want to let go, and you
Yeah.
have this, you know, and if you have that happening on both sides, it can really create a lot of tension. How does a couple navigate that anymore? Would you have anything?
Well, somebody's got to have the tough conversations,
Yeah.
and somebody's going to have to take the lead. And I know Joy's situation, her family not as strong on boundaries. I was much more boundary oriented, but it took us a while to work through that. But I kept holding the line, and I like what they said. This is the first priority here. Everything else is negotiable, and including in-law input, and so.
And that's biblically right.
Yeah, it is. It is. A
Yeah.
man shall leave his father and mother,
Yeah.
cleave to his wife. They
Cleave,
become, I'm not one flesh with your family.
That's right.
Right.
I'm one flesh with you.
Right.
And,
Time
and
to pull out the
so,
scissors.
that's it. That's
scissors.
What
it.
I found
Yeah.
is the in-laws will get over it at some point. You know,
Yeah.
early on, my side of the family, they wanted to have input, and I had to have the hard conversation.
He did.
And
Yeah.
I can tell you, when I had that conversation, it did something great here.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
And it strengthened our relationship,
There you
and
go.
eventually, they came back in the
all.
equation, and they were okay.
Because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Especially if there's kids involved too.
Yeah.
So,
They want to see.
yeah, they want to see their grandkids. So
Grandkids are a great leverage
There
point.
you
They are the leverage point.
right.
Yeah,
Real.
that's why I had kids. All right. All right, Philip and Ellen, this question is for you. How do you put spouse first when kids take up so much time and effort?
Purposefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to do it intentionally.
And we had
There's no easy answer to that one,
you know,
is
we
there?
had some godly advice when we were just becoming parents that really helped us. That even practically, like after dinner, we would go and sit on the couch and this was our time, and we look at the kids and go, "This is mom and dad's time. You're not allowed to interrupt us. Go to your room. Go do whatever you need to do, but do not interrupt us. This is our time." And they tried it at first. They would try to come up, and we're like, and we stood our ground. And so they got to where they understood that and respected that.
That's good.
And I believe it was comforting to them. I mean, it helped us, but it's just something very practical. And you know, we had some godly advice to us that, hey, we were a complete family before they showed up. You know, they're a wonderful add to our family, but we were complete before you got here.
Oh, yes.
And we were good before you got here. And that was kind of a philosophical approach that our kids understood that. And again, I think it helped them to be confident that this was good.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
if this is good,
Yes, yes.
they're going to feel
That's-
sheltered
yes,
and
yes,
comforted
yes.
and
Secure.
secure.
That's
So, but
That's a great point.
thing.
Yeah. No, I think you do have to just be intentional. And when we did that early on, we were like, we've got to train them that this is the priority. So we would literally start for 10 minutes and, you know, super short. Mega was 2, Josh was 4. And we're like,
That's smart.
this is
That's good.
this is our
That's smart.
time. But we did it for 10 minutes and then, okay, now let's get back. And then it would grow, you know, and then they'd see us going out on dates or whatever. But yeah, for kids to see that the marriage is good
It's comforting.
is better than any amount of time you could give them.
Yes.
It pays greater dividends.
I agree with that.
That's good.
I think what also helped is like, you know, we were doing the same thing, but what he would do also is give the kids their time. Like he would say, okay, well, this is mom and dad time. You and I have our time on Saturday.
Yes.
Like, they have daddy-daughter dates. They go breakfast in the morning, like 8 to 10. So that gave the kids something to look forward to. They said, okay, well, this is mom and dad's time. Yes, I get to look forward to my time on Saturday. So everybody has their time with mom and dad,
Yeah.
and then mom and dad have to have their time. So everybody, they kind of understood that whole concept of
Yeah, that's really good.
Ellen, something you told me when I was first having kids, you said you cannot make your kids the world.
Totally.
And you're like, skip the nap time sometimes. Do something that like interferes with their world almost on purpose.
Yeah.
Just so they understand you're not my world. And it's so easy because you love your kids so much
Yeah.
to try to make, and it's everything's telling you make them the world. And I remember that helped me
And
out huge.
the kids will try to make themselves the center
Yes.
of your world.
Yes.
And they will demand and pull, but you do just have to say, and that is not just for your sake, it's for their sake.
That's
That
good.
they're not the center of the world.
And the long run game of that is if you work on this continually while the kids are in the house, when the kids aren't in the house, you still have this.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Bingo.
And I
That's
think
right.
a lot of people,
Bingo.
they focus on the kids, focus on the kids, and then the kids are gone, and they
They
look
got
at each other
nothing. They
like,
got nothing else.
know,
You're exactly right. We were happy when they left.
But you taught actually respect for marriage, which the Bible says marriage is honorable. And so you actually taught we respect relationships that God put together.
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I remember
we made you mad. Remember
Yeah.
what did I tell you one time?
you would tell us all the time that
Look, he's
you
upset about it
loved
still.
Mom more than you loved us.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, hey,
I
I
chose
chose
her.
her, I had you.
We had you.
I,
That's it. And you're leaving.
and you're leaving. But there was, and as
Yeah.
much as maybe as a kid, whatever,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I had a clear understanding where your priorities were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, honestly,
Yeah.
I can say those boundaries and those
Yeah.
priorities helped me understand marriage better. And I think
Yeah.
that also, I could never pair it, I could never
You couldn't
put,
split us.
could never split
You
you.
couldn't split us.
And he
As much as I
wouldn't, he
tried.
wouldn't let them be disrespectful towards me. If you guys were disrespectful, Dad came out, and I was like, okay, everybody's in trouble now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Dad, I'm going to go tough question.
Okay.
We're going to shift gears a little bit.
doing on time?
One of the questions come in is we have couples that maybe a spouse is dealing with addiction.
Okay.
Maybe it's, a couple questions come in, hey, my spouse is addicted to pornography. What do I do? My spouse is addicted to alcohol, does not want to quit. How does someone work through a spouse dealing with an addiction along those lines in a serious matter? What does that look like?
That's a very, very tough one. And there's no way to sugarcoat this. And, the thing about it is if someone doesn't want to get help, then you're pretty limited in terms of what you can do. You can pray, and that's always an option. But you can't force them to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at some point in time, you're just going to determine, is this a tenable situation?
Yeah.
And if, and you have your responsibilities, you're still going to have to, in other words, I'm not going to let you take me down or take the family down. I'm going to do everything I can. If you're not going to fulfill your role, I will do everything I can to take care of the family.
Yeah.
And so you plea, you ask, you pray, but you still have to function. And that's not an easy one at all. That's tough. It's when someone wants to work on something, they're addicted and they want to work on it, that's a lot easier. It's still tough.
Yeah.
But when someone doesn't, you're a little bit, hands are tied there.
Yeah.
I heard someone say that they said to their spouse, and they explained to them, they said, when you're drinking or doing drugs, it really scares me. It makes me feel lonely, very insecure. I don't know how we're going to make it. The example in front of the church. I mean, you have to be able to, instead of just getting so mad about it, just to go, this is how it makes me feel. This is how it's affecting us. And so I'm going to have to make some different choices
you're
that
gonna
are
have to-
safe.
It goes farther than this is how I feel.
Yeah.
I'll have to make decisions
Yes.
that take care of me and the family apart from you.
Which will help them, actually. It's honest.
Yeah.
And it's helpful.
You can't feed it though. and you can't empower it.
Yeah.
And that's where
enable
the courage
somebody.
that's where the courage comes in. That's where the tough part comes in.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not okay with this.
Yeah.
You have to establish boundaries.
Yeah, you do.
Is there a time when is there a time to walk away from marriages? I know I know we're talking about this right now.
Yeah.
But we've had quite a few questions come up about husbands cheating multiple times, or trust being broken multiple times, or this.
Well, scripturally, you have the ability. Anytime there's infidelity, it's always your choice as to whether or not you choose to stay in that relationship. There have been many who have, and had it work out. So it's not. This is you've been unfaithful. I'm out automatically.
Yeah.
But that's going to be an individual thing. If it's repeated,
Yeah.
that's very difficult. I always think, what would I tell my daughter?
Oh.
And if she was in that situation, abuse.
Yeah.
Again, would I let? I've got one daughter. Would I let someone abuse my daughter? At some point in time, you just violated your marriage covenant, and I will come in and help my daughter move out from that. Abandonment is another way where you've left. So, adultery, abandonment, and abuse are typically aren't those the three? And so, well, you never want to give people I'm not happy in the marriage is not a reason. Let me just go there.
Yeah.
When people say, I'm just not happy, well, that's not a good reason. You can still work on something.
Yeah. Derek, Gia, this question goes to you. Can a marriage heal from verbal or physical abuse? And can an abuser be healed? And how?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone can be healed, with the right help, with the right intentions. I think it's important to, when there's abuse, whether it's verbal or emotional or any kind of abuse, I think it's important to seek help. I mean, I think, obviously, when you're in that situation, you're going to need some outside help, and that's where you need to get some guidance from some counselors, those who can, help you to determine, is anyone unsafe in the relationship? Never think that you're alone. Never think that you have to try to figure this all out on your own.
Yeah.
Take the steps to reach out and get some guidance.
That's good.
Yeah, and I just believe there's nothing too hard for God. I just believe if, the person who's abusing is willing to admit that's what they've done and they stop, and the wife or whoever is being abused, if they want to work it out, I believe if you bring God into it, God can do anything.
It's one of our last questions. We've got two more questions, and we'll wrap it up. How do you put God first in your marriage, Philip and Ellen?
Constant choice. I mean, it is. I mean, it's where your life is foundation, and you keep going back to it. You just keep going back to, hey, God, you're number one, and who do you? Question comes when it hits the fan, who do you go to? You go to the Lord. Where do you look for answers? When you need direction, you go to Him. I mean, to me, it's just a constant going back to and keeping my true north, so to speak, focused. I mean,
I think it has to start individually too.
Yes.
That
Yes.
I have to personally choose to keep God first.
right.
And then He does. And when we do that together, then God is first in our marriage.
First in your life, first in your marriage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and your keeping God first can't be dependent on if they do or not. Well, He's not, making God a priority. And so God's not first in our marriage. You can't do that. It's you.
Right.
It's got to start with you.
That's good.
That's
It's like
good.
Pastor and Joy used the strand of three is not easily broken. Well, God's constant. I'm the
Yeah.
one who moves. So I've got to make sure that I'm still wound up with the Lord. She's got to make sure that she's still wound up with the Lord. Then we're strong. So
That's good.
It's real good. Got one final question.
One.
Right here.
One final
Wrap
question.
it up. Who's the head of the household?
That was easy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That is a question that comes up far more.
Thank you.
than-
Sometimes when that question comes up, there's a power struggle inside,
Yeah.
or there's a trust level inside. And so scripturally, talking about the man being the head of the household, it does not mean that the man is the dictator of the household. It means the man is responsible for what takes place in that household. So a lot of times people don't want head. If you want to be the head, that means you're responsible for everything.
Yeah.
And so, as the head of this church, I don't make all the decisions, but I'm responsible for what takes place here. In our household, I think everyone knows that Joy is more spiritual than any of us. But I'm still the head of the household. I'm still responsible for the tone and the atmosphere inside the house. And when it comes down, push comes to shove, Joy will look at me and go, your call. But almost, how many times have I looked at you and said, I'm the head of the household, this is the decision?
No, he hasn't. Sometimes I've said to him, I said, I know this is going to upset you, but I need to tell you what I really have on my heart, the truth about this situation. Do what you think is right. Pray about it. I am praying for you, and I leave it alone. And then I have to trust God. To me, to yield to the leadership of a home is actually trusting God. You have to trust that God can talk to him, because I think where the problem is fear. You're going to make a wrong decision, and I'm going to be in on this.
You're going to take us right down the tubes.
I'm going to
right?
have to trust God that even if you make a mistake, that God is going to help us. Again, I'm connecting with God. It takes a greater trust to allow.
But honestly, over the years,
Yeah.
how many big decisions have I made on my own?
No, I knew about all of them.
We discussed all of
We
them.
did.
And so it's headship does not mean dictatorship.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, it's designed to be a place of peace and comfort for the family and leadership. But Joy spiritually leads in areas that I don't, but I'm still the head
That's good.
of the house.
That's great. All right. Well, you heard it first here on Off the Cuff. We had so many questions we could get to. Really great answers. I appreciate all your being so candid and transparent. Tough questions that came our way. We have Off the Cuff also almost every single Friday on Facebook and YouTube. We'll be asking more questions of these couples in the future. So if you didn't get your answer or question answered, it could be coming up. So you can check it out on Facebook and YouTube. And